The choice is before you. It always has been. Today, it manifests as a broken pact. It could be the banality of dirty dishes left in the sink, violating an agreement. It could be the silence of a coworker who failed to deliver their part of a project, forcing you to carry the extra burden. It could be the empty promise of a partner who once again puts their convenience above your commitment. The specific form is irrelevant. The pattern is what matters. A balance has been disrupted. Someone chose immediate gain, momentary comfort, and transferred the cost to you. And now you're standing there, staring at the aftermath. You feel the familiar heat of resentment. Your first reaction, dictated by a generosity that may simply be a way of avoiding conflict, is to let it go. You justify silence to yourself as maturity, as patience. It's easier to absorb the small chaos than to initiate confrontation. You choose immediate peace at the cost of long-term justice. It was a one-off, you tell yourself. You say nothing. Silence isn't just an absence of sound. It's a tactical decision. You cede territory, hoping the other will realize their error on their own. But the other player rarely realizes what they aren't forced to see. Silence is your first move, a passive move, a choice not to play, which is, in itself, a powerful move. You absorb the cost, you clean up the other's mess, be it physical, professional, or emotional. But the game doesn't stop. The board remains alive. The universe needs to know if you've learned your lesson, or if your territory to be conquered. The pattern repeats itself. The pact is broken again. The task isn't done. The deadline is missed. The promise is forgotten. Chaos returns, now with greater force, knowing you'll accept it. Now the choice has a history. It carries the weight of accumulated resentment. The pile of dishes is no longer dishes. It's a monument to your silence. The late report isn't a mistake. It's an abuse of your authority. Your partner's silence isn't a lapse, it's a weapon. And you, to maintain your own order, to save your own living space from the chaos that invades it, give in again? Do you wash everything? Do you redo the other person's work? Do you keep quiet to keep the peace? As you carry out the other's task, a mixture of self-righteousness and resentment boils within you. You feel like the martyr, the only adult in the room. You tell yourself you're taking the noble path, but what you're really doing is absorbing the poison. You're swallowing the imbalance. You're paying the price for his betrayal in your own time, energy, and sanity. You cleared the board, not to reset the game, but to pretend his betrayal didn't happen, hoping order will magically return. But what you don't realize, deep down, is that you've already changed the rules. You taught him that his failure will have consequences. The consequence is that you will solve the problem. You absorbed the impact. You became the doormat. And a doormat invites others to wipe their feet on you. Or do you choose the other path? Anger finally speaks louder. You refuse. You leave the chaos there, embracing it as a weapon. You openly declare war. You enter the battle of passive-aggressive resistance, transforming the shared space into a minefield of filth and silence. You turn the office into a trench of withheld information. You transform the relationship into an icy desert. Who gives in first? Who can tolerate the chaos the most? Who has the strongest stomach for disorder? You realize, with a cold clarity, that you're trapped. You've been cornered, and both doors lead to a place you don't want to be. The door of submission turns you into an exploited fool, living in order but dying inside. The door of war turns you into a soldier, living in chaos and hating the enemy you see every day. You're in a game you don't know how to play, a game where your choices seem to be between two types of defeat. You want justice, but find only strategy. You want cooperation, but find only self-interest. What to do when trust is broken? How to rebuild a broken pact? What to do when cooperation fails and you risk being exploited forever? Your intuition tells you this is bigger than the undone task. You sense this same pattern repeating itself in every area of your life. How you deal with this small broken pact is how you deal with the world. You're right. The world doesn't hand you a rule book. It hands you dilemmas. And I'm here to show you the map. What you're experiencing in this banal act of coexistence is the essence of all human interaction. It's the fundamental tension between self and other, between immediate gain and long-term good. You're not just deciding on a task. You're deciding who you are. You are forging your response to fate. Do you accept your fate? Do you accept this moment? Do you accept the fact that your colleague is who he is? That the pact has been broken? This is not passive resignation. It is the opposite. It is the radical recognition that this is the board. The game is not what you wish it to be. The game is accepting reality, isn't surrendering to it. It's the first step to acting on it with clarity. You can't change the other player's move. It's already been made. Their betrayal is a given. Your only freedom, your only strength lies in your response. But what is the right answer? Is there one? If you give in, you become weak. If you attack, you destroy. Where is the middle path? You search for a compass. You search for a rule that will guide you out of this impasse. A rule that not only solves the immediate problem, but also preserves your dignity. You want to know how to win. But perhaps winning isn't what you imagine. Perhaps winning is simply restoring order. First within yourself, then without. The answer to your dilemma has a name. It's a cold, academic name, but it describes the most heated and human of all struggles. It's the prisoner's dilemma. And understanding this dilemma isn't an intellectual exercise. It's the only way to free yourself from the prison it creates. It's the first step toward reclaiming your agency in the face of chaos. You're not alone in this prison. We're all in it. We call this prison society. The scene of the unfinished business is just one cell in this vast complex. The prisoner's dilemma is the architecture of this prison. Imagine two suspects captured by the police. They're held in separate rooms. They're not allowed to talk. The police don't have enough evidence for a firm conviction unless one of them confesses. And so, the police offer each of you a deal, individually. If you confess, and your partner remains silent, you walk free. Your partner gets 10 years. If your partner confesses and you remain silent, they walk free and you get 10 years. If you both confess, you both get 5 years. And here's the crux. If you both remain silent, the police can only jail each of you for 1 year for a lesser crime. What do? Let's think. The best outcome for the group, the two prisoners, is for both to remain silent. Both get only 1 year. It's a victory for cooperation. But you don't control what the other does. You're alone in your room. You think, if he stays silent, my best move is to confess. I'll walk free. Then you think, what if he confesses? My best move is also to confess. I'll get 5 years instead of 10. In any scenario, no matter what the other person does, your best individual move, your rational choice, is to confess, to betray. And the other prisoner, in the other room, is thinking exactly the same thing. The inevitable result is that both confess, both betray, and both get 5 years. Both choose rationally, and both end up far worse off than if they had trusted each other. The tragedy here isn't just mathematical, it's psychological. It's the tragedy of isolation. Alone in the room, your mind doesn't see a partner. It sees a potential adversary. Trust becomes a naive risk, and betrayal dresses up in the mask of intelligent self-preservation. This is the paradox. This is the tragedy. This is the basis of what we call game theory. Don't be scared by the name. Game theory is just the map I promised you. It's the mathematical study of how we make decisions when our outcome depends on someone else's choices. It's the science of strategy, and it's everywhere. You play it out in traffic, every day. Cooperation is yielding, keeping a safe distance, using your turn signal, letting the other car merge in front of you when traffic stops. Cheating is cutting someone off, blocking the intersection, cutting in line on the shoulder. The driver who cuts in line isn't just betraying others. He's declaring that his time is more valuable. He sees traffic not as a failed cooperative system, but as an individual competition he must win. Each car he passes is a small dose of dopamine, a reinforcement that he's smarter. But he's just a prisoner in his own metal room, repeatedly pressing the cheat button, then blaming all the other prisoners for the traffic jam he helped create. The immediate individual gain, arriving 2 seconds early, leads to the tragic result: gridlock, where everyone loses, where anger and stress eat away at your peace long after you've stepped out of the car. You play it out in the office. The game here is quieter, but just as brutal. Cooperation is sharing information with your team, giving credit to a colleague, focusing on the project's success, helping someone without expecting anything in return. Betrayal is rarely overt sabotage. It's the compliment you didn't give. It's the crucial information you forgot to share in a meeting. It's choosing individual brilliance over elevating the project. Prisoner's logic whispers, "If I share my best idea, my colleague might steal it and get promoted. Better to keep quiet." The rational pursuit of individual advancement leads to a swamp of mediocrity, where no one puts their best foot forward, and the work environment becomes toxic. Overall productivity plummets. Everyone loses. You play it out in your relationships. Here, the dilemma is the most painful. Cooperation is vulnerability. It's saying, "I messed up first." It's exposing a weakness, a fear. Betrayal is the armor. It's keeping a mental scoreboard of who gave in more, who loved more, who sacrificed more. It's using silence as a weapon to punish the other for a crime you haven't even named. Each partner sits in their interrogation room thinking, "If I open up about my fears, he or she will use them against me in the next fight. Better to protect myself." Both remain silent. Both protect themselves. And the relationship, the prize of mutual cooperation, starves in the hallway between the two rooms. Everyone loses. In all these scenarios, from traffic to marriage, the logic is the same. It's the primal fear of being the sucker, the fear of being the only one to cooperate, the fear of being the prisoner who stays silent while the other confesses and walks free. This fear, this rationality based on avoiding maximum loss, is what inevitably leads us to mutual loss. This fear is a form of preemptive selfishness. It's the ancient voice that whispers that trust is a luxury for the naive. It convinces you to build your fortress before you even know there's a war. And by building it, you invite the other to do the same. You become the cause of the very behavior you feared. You prefer the certainty of mutual loss, both betray, to the uncertainty of risking being the only one to cooperate. You're not choosing the best outcome. You're choosing the least painful outcome for your ego. It's a logic of harm minimization that, ironically, maximizes damage to the system. It's the failure to see that, in the game of life, protecting yourself from the pain of betrayal often means sacrificing the possibility of the joy of cooperation. Game theory teaches us this cold truth. We are not in complete control of our outcomes. We are all tied together. My victory may depend on your choice. Your peace depends on mine. From two people sharing an apartment to nations deciding on war and peace, our choices create the world we live in. This is the great responsibility you bear. Every small decision you make sends a ripple. But game theory also offers a promise. It suggests that if the game is clear, if the goals are defined, there is a mathematically correct choice. There is an optimal path. And for decades, researchers, mathematicians, and computer scientists have searched for this strategy. A strategy that can win the game of life. They wanted to know, what is the best way to play? To always be good? To always be selfish? To be a saint? To be a tyrant? The search for this answer takes us away from abstract philosophy and into a real experiment. A tournament where different strategies were pitted against each other. They wanted to find the apex predator of decision-making. What they discovered wasn't a predator. What they discovered was something that shocked them. The most effective strategy, the one that won repeatedly, was profoundly simple. And, to everyone's surprise, it was surprisingly hopeful. It was a strategy any of us can learn. It is a strategy that can, in fact, teach us how to deal with the broken pact. But, to understand it, we must first understand the different types of games we play. Because not every game is a war. Not every interaction has to end in defeat. In game theory, as I see it, a game is simply the architecture of an interaction. It's the set of rules, players, and possible outcomes. And the first step to playing well is knowing what kind of game you're in. There are cooperative games, where goals are shared. Think of a rowing team. One person's success is everyone's success. Communication is open, resources are shared, and trust is the foundation. The goal is harmony and mutual benefit. In theory, your shared space should be a cooperative game, but it isn't. Why? Because the moment the task wasn't completed, your teammate changed the rules. He broke the pact. He introduced a conflict of interest. He placed his own interest, convenience, above the group's interest, order. He transformed a pact of harmony into a contest of wills. And he pushed you toward the other type of game, the non-cooperative game. This is the much more common game in the world. It's the game where there are winners and losers, or, more often, varying degrees of loss. It's a game where each player acts independently, seeking their own best outcome, potentially at the expense of others. The prisoner's dilemma is the classic example of a non-cooperative game. But the classic prisoner's dilemma has a fatal flaw compared to life. It happens only once. You either betray or cooperate, and the game is over. You never see the other prisoner again. In these single-round games, the logic of betrayal is nearly unbeatable. The interaction is anonymous, with no past and, crucially, no future. There's no reputation to protect. There's no hint of retaliation. It's a pure, cold calculation of immediate gain versus immediate loss. Think of that old British television show called Golden Balls. In the finale, two strangers sat across from each other with a large sum of money at stake. They had two balls, one labeled Divide and the other Steal. They secretly chose one. If both chose Divide, the money was split equally. If one chose Steal and the other Divide, the thief took everything and the other nothing. And if you both chose Steal, you'd both go home with nothing. Picture yourself in that chair. The cold sweat, your heart pounding. You look into the eyes of a complete stranger. You try to read their soul in seconds. Does they seem trustworthy? Does they seem desperate? Does they seem cunning? What do you do? The cold logic of game theory, the same as the prisoner's dilemma, gives you a clear answer. It's the dominant strategy, the choice that gives you the best outcome no matter what the other person does. Let's analyze. If the stranger chooses split, what's your best move? Steal. You take everything instead of half. Now, if the stranger chooses steal, what's your best move? Steal too. You gain nothing, but at least you're not the fool who chose split and was exploited. You break even instead of losing everything. In any scenario, the rational choice is steal. But what is this rationality, if not the logic of fear disguised as intelligence? What is this logic, if not the voice of the prisoner isolated in his cell? This rationality is low-level. It sees only one movement forward. It doesn't build anything. It only extracts value or avoids immediate loss. This cold logic is what makes us hoard information at work. It's what prevents us from apologizing first. It's what tells us to not do the task and wait, because to give in is to lose. And in a one-round game, this logic works. You win or you don't lose. But here's the central truth I want you to understand. Life is not a one-round game. Life is repetition. Life is an iterated game. The roommate you betray today is the same colleague you'll see tomorrow, and the next day, and the next month. The business partner you cheat on a contract is someone you might need for a future project. The driver you cut off in traffic is the same one you'll meet at the next stoplight. The stranger you exploit doesn't disappear. They tell 10 other strangers that you're untrustworthy. Your name, your face, your reputation, all of it carries over to the next round. Life is an iterated game. And that single change, the repetition, the shadow of the future, changes everything. It changes the math. It changes the strategy. What is rational in a single-round game, cheating, becomes profoundly irrational as the game continues. Betrayal in an iterated game is not a victory. It is an investment in future conflict. It plants a seed of distrust that will grow and suffocate any possibility of future cooperation. If you steal on the TV show, you take the money, and the game is over. But if you cheat on your roommate, the game isn't over. It simply enters a new phase, a phase of retaliation, of distrust, of Cold War. If you cheat on your roommate on Monday, he might retaliate on Tuesday by letting the trash pile up. You retaliate on Wednesday by playing loud music. He retaliates on Thursday. Both are playing rationally to protect their immediate interests, and both are living in a hell of their own making. Is the gain from not doing the chore real? Or is it an illusion hiding the much greater loss of your peace? Where is the gain in living in a chaotic and hostile environment? That is the real question. Immediate gain is a mirage in the desert of repetition. You gain 5 minutes today and lose months of peace of mind. You protect your ego in an argument and lose the intimacy built over years. The logic of the one-round game, when applied to life, is the definition of self-sabotage. It is a failure to accept your destiny, because it fails to understand that your destiny is not this moment, but the sum of all moments. With this in mind, knowing that life is an iterated game, what is the most effective decision-making strategy? How should you live? How do you navigate this sea of repeated interactions, where your reputation is your only compass? The good news is that we don't have to guess. The answer doesn't lie in speculative philosophy. The answer has been found. It was tested in one of the most fascinating computer experiments ever devised, a tournament that pitted hundreds of strategies against each other in a digital battle for survival. A battle to find the soul of the machine. And in doing so, they found a reflection of our own. In real life, as in your shared space, interactions repeat themselves. The future casts a long shadow over the present. If you betray your colleague today, they have the power to retaliate tomorrow. The reputation you build of trustworthiness or of betrayal becomes your most valuable asset or your greatest liability. Understanding this, the question shifts. It's no longer, how do I win this round? But how do I thrive in a game that never ends? In 1980, a political scientist named Robert Axelrod at the University of Michigan decided to turn this philosophical question into a scientific experiment. The context of the time was the Cold War. The prevailing model of rational choice was cynical. It assumed that the only sane logic was that of ruthless self-interest. Cooperation was seen as the weakness of fools. Axelrod wanted to test this. He created a computer tournament. He invited dozens of game theorists, economists, psychologists, and programmers from around the world. The challenge was simple: create a computer program, a strategy that would play an iterated version of the prisoner's dilemma. Each submitted strategy would play against all the others, and not just once. They would play 200 times in a row against each opponent. The game was the same prisoner's dilemma. You could either cooperate or defect. The scoring was carefully calibrated to reflect the incentives. If you both cooperated, you both received 3 points, the reward of mutual cooperation. If you defected and the other cooperated, you received 5 points, the temptation, and the other received 0, the fool's punishment. And if you both defected, you both received 1 point, the punishment for mutual destruction. The goal wasn't to beat your opponent in one game. The goal was to accumulate the maximum total points by the end of the entire tournament. This is a crucial distinction. You weren't trying to defeat the other. You were trying to prosper as much as possible. You could only thrive if you found a way to obtain the 3 points of mutual cooperation as quickly and consistently as possible, while avoiding being exploited, the 0, or falling into the trap of mutual destruction, the 1. 14 programs were submitted, and they were a fascinating reflection of human nature, a menagerie of algorithms. There were deeply nasty programs designed to exploit mercilessly. There were cynical strategies that probed the opponent with periodic betrayals just to see if they could get away with it. There were complex, high IQ programs that analyzed the opponent's history, trying to model their psychology, predict their next move, and then exploit them. There was a strategy called dark trigger, which was legal and cooperative, but if betrayed, once only, she would betray forever, in eternal retaliation. It was a ruthless, unforgiving strategy. Axelrod added a 15th program, one that simply played random, cooperating or defecting with a 50-50 chance, like flipping a coin. The general expectation among academics was that the winner would be a nasty program, a cynical, complex, perhaps exploitative program that would probe for weaknesses and exploit them mercilessly. Cold War logic dictated that the most cunning, the most ruthless, would win. They sent their digital predators, their most cunning logic, into this silicon battle. The tournament began. Thousands of interactions, round after round. Cooperation, betrayal, reward, punishment. The scores were tallied, and when the results came in, they shocked Axelrod and the entire scientific community. The winner was not a complex program. It was not a nasty program. The winner was one of the simplest programs submitted. In fact, it was the shortest program, with only a few lines of code. It was called Give and Take. The dark trigger, with its no forgiveness policy, backfired. Why? Because in a world of noise, misunderstandings, an accidental betrayal sent it into a death spiral from which it never recovered. Real life is noisy. You might think your colleague betrayed you, but they've simply forgotten. You might interpret silence as aggression when it's simply fatigue. The dark trigger had no room for human imperfection. By refusing to forgive, it condemned itself to perpetual war over a single mistake, destroying any chance of restoring the 3 points of cooperation. It was a very fragile strategy for a chaotic world. Complex strategies also backfired. Their very complexity was their downfall. They sent confusing signals. They betrayed like probes, but other strategies saw this as pure aggression and retaliated. They were too intelligent to be understood, and in a game of cooperation, being incomprehensible is the same as being hostile. Their Machiavellian genius isolated them. They couldn't signal their intention to cooperate, and so no one trusted them. They failed because they were obscure. Axelrod was so surprised he thought it was a fluke. Perhaps the specific mix of opponents favored this simple strategy. So he did something brilliant. He published the results and organized a second, much larger tournament. This time, 62 programs submitted from around the world. Everyone now knew the winning strategy. Everyone was actively trying to beat the give and take. There was a veritable algorithmic arms race. People submitted strategies specifically designed to exploit the champion's simplicity. They thought, aha, I start cooperating. Then I betray in round 5. He'll retaliate. So I cooperate, he'll forgive, and I betray him again. They created parasitic programs designed to siphon points from the give and take. And to make the game even more like real life, Axelrod made a crucial change. The number of rounds per game was no longer fixed at 200. It was unknown. The game could end at any moment. Just like in life, you never know when your last interaction with someone will be. This eliminated the possibility of cheating in the last round without consequences. The shadow of the future became infinite. The second tournament began. A much more dangerous and sophisticated digital arena. Millions of interactions. The anti-give-and-take strategies failed miserably. They were too specific. They could exploit the champion for a few points, but then they fared poorly against all other strategies. They were like a hyper-specialized predator that only knows how to hunt a single prey. When that prey was not there, they starved. They were exploited by truly unsavory strategies and couldn't build trust with the legitimate ones. They failed because their intelligence was too narrow. They gained a small tactical advantage at the cost of a complete strategic failure. They were the experts who knew everything about one thing and nothing about everything else. The world, like the tournament, is an ecosystem. You don't play against one opponent, you play against everyone. And again, the results were calculated. And again, to everyone's astonishment, give and take won. Won again. The simplest strategy, the most seemingly naive, won again. It wasn't just robust, it was a fundamental truth. What did this strategy do? How could something so simple defeat such complex and treacherous logic? The answer is the heart of everything we're discussing. It's the answer you seek to your dilemma. The winning strategy, give and take, was governed by just two rules. Two simple rules that any of us can understand and apply. Rule 1. In the first round, always cooperate. Start the game with a gesture of trust. Be the first to extend your hand. In your shared space, this means fulfilling your part of the bargain, assuming the other will do the same. It's the rule of sympathy or benevolence, being nice. You're never the first to cheat. Rule 2. In all subsequent rounds, simply copy your opponent's last move. That's it. If your opponent cooperated in the previous round, you cooperate in the current round. If they cheated in the previous round, you cheat immediately in the current round. You become a mirror, a perfect and immediate mirror. If your opponent, your teammate, cooperates and fulfills their task, you continue cooperating and fulfill yours. If they cheat and don't, you retaliate immediately. You don't do the task for them. You confront them. You apply a consequence. But, and here's the beauty of the rule, if the following week he cooperates again, you immediately forgive him. You don't hold a grudge. You don't say, "Oh, but you failed 3 weeks ago." The game resets. You cooperate again. It's a strategy of immediate justice and immediate forgiveness. And that was it. This simple logic dominated the tournament. But how? Axelrod's analysis revealed the most incredible paradox of the entire experiment. Give and take never won a single individual game. Think about it. Against any opponent, give and take could only draw or lose. She never defeated anyone. If she played against a nice program that always cooperated, she cooperated too. They drew 3 points each, round after round. If she played against a nasty program that betrayed her, she betrayed back. They ended up trapped in a cycle of mutual betrayal, 1 point each. If she played against a program that exploited her, she was betrayed the first time, 0 points for her, 5 for the other. But then she copied the betrayal, and they were tied. She always lost, narrowly, or drew. She never got the highest score in any head-to-head match. And yet, she won the entire tournament. How is this possible? The answer reveals the crucial difference between winning a battle and winning a war. The answer lies in the definition of success. Axelrod's tournament was not a zero-sum game. In a zero-sum game, like chess, for me to win, you must lose. My victory is your defeat. But the iterated prisoner's dilemma is not a zero-sum game. It is a variable-sum game. It is possible for both players to win together, earning 3 points each. And it is possible for both to lose together, earning 1 point each. Life, most of the time, is not a zero-sum game. It is a variable-sum game. The nasty strategies treated the tournament as a zero-sum game. Their goal was to beat their opponent in each round, to get more points than the other. They were focused on getting the 5 temptation points. They managed to exploit some foolish programs, but in doing so, they started wars. They engaged in long cycles of mutual betrayal with other nasty programs, dragging their scores down by 1 point per round. They won battles and lost the war. They were so busy trying to push others down that they didn't realize they were sinking along with them. They saw the world as a place of scarcity, where every point gained by the other was a point lost by them. This is the mindset of the original prisoner, unable to see the bigger picture, the possibility of mutual gain. They secured their momentary victory at the cost of their long-term prosperity. Give and take, on the other hand, wasn't trying to beat anyone. It was trying to prosper. Its logic was fundamentally different. It wasn't jealous. In Axelrod's terminology, a non-envious strategy is one that doesn't mind scoring less than its opponent, as long as it is scoring as much as possible. The tit-for-tat strategy didn't care if its opponent scored 5 points and it scored 0 in a round, because it knew that in the next round it would retaliate and the game would change. It was focused on maximizing its own score, not minimizing the others. This lack of envy is perhaps its most revolutionary characteristic. It destroys the logic of relative status. What matters isn't whether you're better off than your neighbor. What matters is whether you're living in a 3-point environment. The Tat understands that 3 points in a peaceful world is infinitely superior to 5 points in a world of chaos and exploitation, followed by a lifetime of 1 point of retaliation. By starting by cooperating, it signaled to the other legal programs that it was a partner. It quickly found other cooperators and entered a cycle of mutual 3 points. She achieved the best long-term outcome: stable cooperation. She transformed the game into a positive-sum partnership. When she encountered an unpleasant program, she punished it immediately, discouraging it from trying to exploit her again. She wasn't a fool. She was retaliatory. But she was also forgiving, allowing a relationship of mutual betrayal, 1 point, to be restored to mutual cooperation, 3 points, as soon as the other was willing. She wasn't interested in punishing for the sake of punishing. She was interested in returning to 3 points as quickly as possible. Axelrod identified 4 qualities that made this strategy so robust. 1. She was nice. She never betrayed first. This avoided unnecessary problems and allowed cooperation to flourish. 2. She was retaliatory. She wasn't a doormat. She punished betrayal immediately. This taught the exploiters that she wasn't easy prey. 3. She was forgiving. She didn't hold grudges. She cleaned up the past with each round. This allowed her to break out of cycles of retaliation and restore cooperation. 4. She was clear. Her rules were so simple that other programs could quickly understand her. They learned that cooperation was rewarded and betrayal was punished. She taught others to cooperate with her. Clarity is an act of generosity. It offers the opponent a playbook for peace. Complex strategies are selfish. They guard their logic as a secret, and in the process, appear erratic and dangerous. The transparency of give and take invited cooperation, making it the most obvious and profitable choice for anyone interacting with her. This strategy is not just an algorithm. It is a code of values. It is a model for how to navigate the world. It is a system in perfect balance. Remove any one of the 4 qualities, and everything falls apart. Being nice and forgiving, but not retaliatory, turns you into an exploited martyr, the doormat you were by absorbing the cost of the job undone. Being nice and retaliatory, but not forgiving, turns you into the dark trigger, trapped in eternal wars over past mistakes, unable to rebuild trust. It is the interplay of these 4 simple virtues that creates an indomitable force. It is the essence of accepting the flow of life. You accept the other's movement, destiny, as it is. If it is cooperation, you embrace it. If it is betrayal, you accept it and reflect it, justly, without hatred, simply as a consequence. And you are ready to accept the next move, whatever it may be. The lesson is profound. Long-term success does not come from defeating others. It comes from being able to build mutual cooperation. It comes from not being envious. It comes from understanding that it is better to get 3 points together than 1 point alone. But how do we, as human beings, apply this? We are not programs. We are made of pride, anger, resentment, and memory. We are the definition of envious beings. How can we be simultaneously retaliatory and forgiving? Axelrod's lesson is clear, and for me, it's the central lesson of existence. In a system of continuous interactions, starting with cooperation isn't weakness. It's the highest form of strategic strength. Unkind strategies, cynicism, exploitation. They may seem like victories in the short term, but they're the path to mutual destruction. Holding a grudge is a weakness. Carrying the weight of past betrayals forever prevents you from building a cooperative future. Forgiveness, in this context, isn't an abstract moral act. It's a strategic mechanism to restore the three-point flow. It's intelligence. But, and this is the most important point you must grasp, being weak is also a weakness. Letting someone harm you without consequences, as you did the first time you absorbed the cost, isn't being nice. It's being a doormat. And a doormat invites others to wipe their feet on you. You didn't teach your colleague the value of cooperation. You taught him that his betrayal is costless. The give-and-take strategy is the perfect balance. It's the essence of being kind, fair, and understanding, but never, ever being a doormat. Of course, game theory has its limitations. Real life is infinitely more complex. Interactions aren't so clear-cut. Often, we don't know if the other person cheated or if it was just a misunderstanding. What you think was a betrayal, they're not doing the homework. They might think was justified. I was too busy. You don't know about my life. Life involves emotions, irrationality, pride, love, and hate. We are not programs. Pure give and take, like a perfect mirror, has a vulnerability in the real world. It is susceptible to noise. Imagine you think your colleague cheated on you, but it was a mistake. He thought it was your turn. You, following the rules, retaliate. He, seeing your retaliation, now retaliates back. You both enter a spiral of revenge, an echo of betrayals, where both believe they are merely responding to the other's aggression. Both are right and both are wrong, trapped in a one-point cycle. This is where human wisdom must go beyond the simple algorithm. In later simulations, an even more robust strategy emerged: the generous give and take. This strategy followed the same rules, but with a slight modification. Occasionally, very rarely, it would forgive a betrayal that didn't deserve it. After being betrayed, instead of retaliating 100% of the time, it would perhaps retaliate 90% of the time, and in 10% it would suck it up and cooperate again. Why? To break the cycle. This unexpected cooperation is a probe of peace. It asks, did you really mean to betray me, or was it an accident? Here is my hand extended again, one last time. If the other player was a willful traitor, they will exploit this generosity, and in the next round, the strategy returns to retaliation. But if it was a misunderstanding, this generosity breaks the spiral of revenge and immediately restores the three-point flow. This is forgiveness elevated to tactical wisdom. It's understanding that blind justice can be foolish. But the give-and-take strategy still provides us with a path, a guide. How, then, can we apply this to our lives, to our shared space, to our own soul? Let's outline the practical path. 1. Start by cooperating. Your first move isn't a strike, it isn't silent resentment. Your first move is clear cooperation. It's doing your homework. It's proposing the initial agreement in good faith. It's being the first to trust in a new work project. It's being vulnerable in a relationship. It's giving the world a chance to cooperate with you. 2. Be retaliatory, with proportion and clarity. The colleague fails. They betray the agreement. What do? You don't ignore it, because that's weakness. You don't expel him, because that's disproportionate. You don't destroy his work, because that's war. You apply tit for tat. You retaliate with precision. You don't do the task for him. And crucially, you make the retaliation clear. You confront him, not with anger, but with justice. This was the deal. You broke it. I won't absorb the cost. You mirror the breach of trust. You set a limit. 3. Be forgiving, immediately. This is the hardest step for humans. The moment he acknowledges his failure and acts, fulfills the task, the game resets. The past dies. You don't bring it up next week. You don't dwell. There he goes, the guy who always fails. Grudge is the poison you drink, waiting for the other to die. Strategic forgiveness clears the board, so the game of cooperation, the 3 points, can begin again. 4. Be clear. Your strategy can't be a mystery. The other player needs to understand the rules. My position is simple. I do my part, and I expect you to do yours. If you fail, I'll point it out, and there will be a consequence. If you fix it, we move on. This gives the other player the power to choose to cooperate with you. The greatest lesson of all is this: the game of life is not about winning every interaction. The obsession with beating the other, with never being the fool, with always having the last word, is a recipe for a one-point life. It's a recipe for living in a constant cold war, whether with your roommate or with yourself. Accept fate. And fate is that people will fail. People will betray you. This is not a tragedy. It's just a move in the game. Betrayal is not the end of the game. It's just the other player's move. Your true strength, your true victory, is not in avoiding traction. It's in how you respond to it. It's in your ability to retaliate justly, to protect yourself, and to forgive wisely, to protect the future. In the end, as I said at the beginning, we can never fully control whether the people around us will cooperate or betray. We can only control our own actions. We can only control our side of the board. And knowing that every decision we make, whether to do the task or not, whether to trust or not, whether to forgive or not, influences the nature of all future games, creating the world we want to live in. I've given you the map. What will you do with it? The choice, as always, is yours. And so, at least to begin with, for our own sake, when our day comes, we'd better do our part. If this reflection on the architecture of our choices resonated with you, if it offered you a new map, I urge you to make your cooperative move. Like this video. Leave a comment, sharing your own experience with the prisoner's dilemma, even anonymously if you prefer. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel so we can continue this game together.